Welcome back to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited about today's topic because we're going on a cinematic, almost archaeological journey together. We're going to explore these forgotten desert kingdoms that stood as vital bridges and, honestly, sometimes really fierce barriers between the monumental empires of Rome and Persia. Inspired by Philip K. Hitti's amazing history of the Arabs, we're going to sift through the sands of time to uncover cities of immense wealth, profound cultural fusion, and just breathtaking architecture. Okay, let's jump right into this.
I want you to picture the vast Syrian desert at sunrise. Imagine golden light spilling over these towering ancient columns. Because right there, between the massive monoliths of Rome and Persia, between the heavy footprint of empire and the trackless desert, Arab kingdoms were literally rising straight up from the caravan roads. And it's important to realize these weren't just empty wastelands, not at all. They were the bustling, high-speed highways of the ancient world. They birthed cities of merchants, of warriors, of legendary queens, and of poets. To truly grasp the history of this region, we have to understand the immense commercial power that pulsed through these arid landscapes.
Section 1. Shifting Sands of Trade, from Sea to Desert.
So to understand this first era of our journey, we really have to look at how global commerce fundamentally shifted. It basically moved the center of gravity from the southern seas straight up into the northern deserts. For the longest time, South Arabia held this massive, highly lucrative monopoly on spices, frankincense, and myrrh. But that all changed when Egypt, under the Ptolemies and later the Romans, started aggressively competing for maritime trade. They cracked the code of the monsoon sea routes. A Roman navigator named Hippolus essentially became the Columbus of early Roman trade by figuring out how to ride the monsoons directly to India. It was a real game changer. It completely broke the South Arabian monopoly. And the result? All that immense wealth and commercial power shifted north, straight into the hands of the desert caravans who could move these luxury goods across land.
Section 2. Petra, the Rock City. That massive economic shift paved the way for our first great northern kingdom. And this was a kingdom carved literally out of the earth itself. The sheer, undeniable majesty of Petra is just mind-blowing. This was the capital of the Nabataeans. Now, they started out as nomadic tribes, but they brilliantly built an empire not through military conquest, but through absolute control of those new northern trade routes. Imagine carving a metropolis directly out of vibrant, rainbow-colored sandstone cliffs. Surrounded by these precipitous, almost impassable rock faces, Petra was an impregnable fortress and a vital oasis. It acted as a crucial buffer state and the ultimate caravan pit stop. It gave merchants moving between the Mediterranean and the East incredibly pure water and fresh camels.
But Petra wasn't just some ancient truck stop, It was a vibrant, cosmopolitan melting pot. The Nabataeans were true cultural bridges. For their everyday conversations, they spoke in Arabic vernacular, but for trade and official documents, they used the formal Aramaic characters of their northern neighbors. And their religion? It was this fascinating blend. Their chief god, Dushara, the lord of Shara, eventually became associated with the vine and actually absorbed traits from the Greek god Dionysus. They were deeply influenced by Hellenistic culture, weaving East and West together into something entirely unique.
But of course, no amount of wealth goes unnoticed by Rome. Consider the story told by an ancient Nabataean bronze coin. On one side, you've got the head of the Roman Emperor Trajan. On the flip side, the city goddess of Petra. It physically captures the transition perfectly. In AD 105, seeing the staggering wealth of this rock city, Emperor Trajan put an end to Nabataean autonomy. Petra was absorbed, its territory transformed into a regular Roman province called Provincia Arabia. As trade routes shifted even further north, the glory of Petra slowly began to fade into the desert silence.
Section 3. The Evolution of Written Arabic. So while the physical walls of Petra were being absorbed by Rome, the Nabataeans were leaving behind a legacy that was far more enduring than carved stone. Let's walk through this incredible journey of the alphabet. It's like a giant puzzle. It actually started with ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Around 1850 BC, Semitic workers in Sinaitic turquoise mines looked at the Egyptian hieroglyph for an ox head. But instead of calling it an ox head in Egyptian, they used their own word, aleph, and used it just for the A sound. That Sinaitic script then evolved into Phoenician and Aramic, and the Nabataeans, as we learned, took Aramic and, over centuries of writing trade receipts and letters, developed a really cursive, flowing style. By the 3rd century, that Nabataean cursive began transforming directly into the script of the North Arabic tongue, which is literally the foundation of the Arabic alphabet used today.
And we actually have the receipts to prove it. Found in the Eastern Haran dating way back to AD 328 is the epitaph on the tomb of Imru al-Qais, a Lakhmid king.
Now, why does this matter? Because this inscription is one of the absolute oldest known examples of written Arabic. It's this breathtaking moment where we get to see the commercial need to adapt ancient scripts along trade routes crystallize into a formal language, a language that would soon shape the whole world.
Section 4. Palmyra, Queen of the Desert.
While the Arabic language was quietly germinating in the north, a new physical powerhouse was stepping into the ring. As Petra declined, Palmyra became the chief of the caravan. It grew into the richest oasis city of the entire Near East. Its colonnade and triumphal arch stood defiantly right in the middle of the Syrian desert. It was a luxurious, breathtaking blend of Greek, Syrian, and Iranian architecture. Honestly, it was so magnificent and so suddenly dropped into the middle of the wilderness that local Arab storytellers genuinely believed it was built by mystical jinn for King Solomon. I mean, no way a human built that, right?
But Palmyra didn't survive the same way Petra did. They had totally different strategies. The Nabataeans in Petra relied on a hidden rock fortress. They mostly avoided direct militarism and used their impregnable geography to stay safe. The Palmyrans, on the other hand, they were sitting out in an open desert oasis, caught directly between the rival empires of Rome and Parthia. They survived by playing this really dangerous, highly profitable game of neutrality, basically playing the empires off each other. And because they were out in the open, they became heavily militarized under their later rulers. They were absolutely the true heirs of Petra's trade, but with a much, much more aggressive approach.
Section 5. Zenobia's Defiance and Fall. That aggressive approach eventually brought Palmyra a legendary queen and a highly dramatic, honestly tragic climax. Let's trace this out. Palmyra enjoyed this long zenith of wealth and power from AD 130 to 270. But then, the brilliant and intensely ambitious Queen Zenobia took the throne. With what historians have described as masculine energy, she wasn't just content to be a buffer state. No way. In AD 270, she pushed the frontiers of her kingdom, driving her armies to conquer Roman garrisons in Egypt and Asia Minor. She dared to claim the title of Queen of the East, effectively challenging Rome itself for supremacy of the region. But, as you can probably guess, the Roman Emperor Aurelian was absolutely not going to let that slide. In AD 272, he launched a devastating retaliation.
The fall of Palmyra was swift and cinematic. Aurelian's forces utterly defeated the Palmyrene armies, and as Rome entered the city, the proud Arab queen fled in despair. She took off on a swift dromedary deep into the desert, but she was overtaken. Zenobia was taken captive, brought all the way to Rome, and led in literal golden chains before the chariot of the victor to grace his triumphal entry. Aurelian completely destroyed Palmyra's walls, dissolved its commonwealth, and left the once glorious oasis in absolute ruins. The meteoric glory of Palmyra had come to a very dark end.
Section 6. A Precedent for Unification. So, where does that leave us? Petra is absorbed. Palmyra is burned to the ground. But these great northern kingdoms didn't just vanish into the dust. They were laying the philosophical and political groundwork for something entirely new. We see this super clearly with the rise of the Kindah tribe. Now, Kindah wasn't a sprawling city of stone. Its rise is fascinating because it represents the very first attempt in Inner Arabia to unite a whole bunch of fiercely independent tribes around the central authority of one common chief. It was a massive experiment. And yeah, while the Kindah Confederation eventually fell to fratricidal struggles, it established a massive precedent. It proved that the Arab tribes could be united. It was a precedent that prepared the political soil for the momentous unification that was going to come later with the rise of Islam.
Ultimately, though, the most profound legacy of these people wasn't built in sandstone or marble. As Philip K. Hitti points out, typical Samanids didn't create great statues or paintings. Their artistic nature found expression through one primary medium: speech. Their poetry, their eloquence, that was their ultimate monument. Even modern audiences can still be deeply stirred by ancient Arabic poems. The rhythm, the rhyme, the musicality of the language produced this incredible effect they beautifully called lawful magic, or sir halal. The physical empires fell, absolutely, but the lawful magic of their language, that conquered the world.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought for this explainer. If the deepest, most enduring legacy of these mighty, incredibly wealthy desert kingdoms was actually built on the evolution of an alphabet and the magic of poetry, rather than their impregnable stone walls, well, what other forgotten civilizations are still speaking to us today, just hiding in plain sight in the very words we use? Something to think about, right? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the sands of time. Stay curious, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.